Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to France Today Live. I am Sylvia Davis, cultural editor for France Media, and your host today for our event about Strasbourg, the capital of Christmas, with local writer and longtime resident Rich Woodruff. I'll now invite Rich to join us.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for joining us. It's lovely to see you. How is Strasbourg?
It's good. It's cold, but it's often cold at this time of year, and very festive.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Well, no wonder. It's the capital of Christmas, as we're about to learn. So let me introduce you. Richard Woodruff is a Strasbourg-based travel writer with an extensive experience exploring Alsace and beyond. Fluent in French and a long-time resident of the region, he brings personal insights and an expert eye to travelers seeking deeper perspectives on France and its neighboring regions. Rich contributed as a researcher and writer to Fodor's Essential France, Rough Guide to France, and Rough Guide to Switzerland, and has written widely for Time Out, among many other publications. So thanks again for sharing your hometown with us, Rich, and over to you. All yours.
The pleasure. So Strasbourg, capital of Christmas. So as Sylvia said, I've been living in Strasbourg now since 2012, which astonishes me, but it's over 13 years now. So as Sylvia said, and you can probably hear, I'm British. I lived in Paris for 10 years, in the Loire Valley for a little bit, and in Montreal. But when I moved to Strasbourg, I found it has an instantly likable charm that's really unlike anywhere else in France. Okay, so first of all, where is Strasbourg? So Strasbourg is in the easternmost part of France, on the border with Germany. So the Rhine River is all that separates Strasbourg from the neighbouring German town of Kehr. In fact, you can actually get a tram in the city right into Germany. So Strasbourg in German, Strasse means roads, and Burg means town. So literally, it's the town at the crossing of the roads. And Strasbourg has always been important as a crossroads in Europe because of its strategic position on the west bank of the Rhine River. As you can see from the map, it borders Germany, and Switzerland is not far away. It's only about 1 hour 15 on the train to Basel. Luxembourg is about 2 hours away, and Belgium is also very close. So it really is the heart of Europe. So Strasbourg is the capital of the Bas-Rhin département. It's also the capital of Alsace, which is made up of 2 French départements, the Bas-Rhin and the Haut-Rhin. And it's also the capital of the Grand Est region, which is made up of Alsace, Lorraine, and the Champagne region. It's France's 7th largest city, with a population of about 280,000, or about 500,000, the Greater Strasbourg. And it also is home to one of France's biggest universities. Okay, so a brief history of Strasbourg. I think this is important just to understand the culture. So the origins of Strasbourg can be traced back to Celtic times. Under the Romans, it became a garrison town known as Argentoratum. Then in the 5th century, it was captured by the Franks, who called it Strapteburgum, which is the origin of its name today. It then spent centuries as part of the Germanic Holy Roman Empire, and then it was in 1681 that it finally became a part of France, although it kept a certain amount of independence, notably in terms of education and religion, because it was mainly Protestant, whereas the rest of France was Catholic. And in this period, its current claim to fame for Strasbourg is that France's national anthem, La Marseillaise, was actually, strangely enough, composed in Strasbourg. So it was written by Claude Joseph Rouget de Lille, and originally it was the anthem of the Rhine Army before it became known as La Marseillaise and became the anthem of the French Revolution. So during the Franco-Prussian War, Strasbourg was captured by the Germans and annexed to Germany in 1871. Then, following Germany's defeat in World War I, Strasbourg became French again, until World War II, when it was annexed back to Germany. And then since 1944 and the end of the war, Strasbourg has once again been part of France. But I think this Franco-German history explains a lot about the culture here, about the culture in terms of food, architecture, the names of places, and the names of people, because a lot of people have family names that are very Germanic sounding, and also the language, because the local language is Alsatian, which sounds more like German than it does French. Okay, so the Christmas market. So in the Middle Ages, the Saint Nicolas market was held by the cathedral around the 6th of December. So this is the day of Saint Nicholas, and in fact, as we'll see later, the 6th of December is still a big deal here in Strasbourg. But that market was banned following the Reformation because the veneration of saints was strongly discouraged. So actually, it was in 1570 that the Christmas market, as we know it today, really began. So that was the first Christkindelsmärik, which is Alsatian, the market of the Christ child. And then in 1870, the market was held for the first time in Place Kléber, and that remains the main site of the traditional Christmas market today. So Place Kléber is a big tree-lined square overlooked by the city's opera house and by City Hall. Then, in the 20th century, the stalls on the market started branching out, selling new products such as jewelry, perfume, and Christmas decorations. And in the early 1990s, the market really started growing. So it extended across the city's historical centre. So it was no longer just on Place Kléber, but in the square in front of the cathedral, and in Strasbourg main square, Place Kléber, and all along the riverside, Petite France. By 2010, around 2 million visitors were coming to Strasbourg's Christmas market throughout the month. And that remains the case today. In fact, the market just grows and grows, more popular every year. So Strasbourg is one of the oldest Christmas markets in the world. It's twice named Best Christmas Market by European Best Destinations. And it was named the world's Best Christmas Market in 2018 by CNN Travel. In fact, Christmas is such a big deal in Strasbourg. There are several shops dedicated exclusively to Christmas decorations all year round. Okay, so to get you in the mood, I've created a little video of last year's Christmas market. So here you are for a bit of festive spirit. Yeah, so that's a little Christmas market. Thanks, Sophie. Okay, so Christmas market 2025. So as usual, the Christmas market starts at the end of November and finishes on Christmas Eve. This year it started last week on the 26th of November, and it's open every day from 11:30 to 9 p.m. There are around 300 wooden chalets erected across the city centre, selling traditional food, drinks, Christmas decorations, local arts and crafts. So this is the map for the 2025 edition. And as you'll see, it's all held in the historic centre of Strasbourg, which is an island. As you can see, it's surrounded by water on all sides. So the island is known as the Grande Île, the big island, and slightly confusingly, it's surrounded by the river Île. So it's the Grande Île surrounded by the river Île. And the whole site is classified a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So in 2025, there are 8 markets, each in different locations in the historic centre. You can see them colour-coded on the map. So each market is only a few minutes walk from the other one. And all the city centre is pedestrianised. It actually is most of the time, but during the market, the only cars allowed onto the Grande Île are for deliveries and residents. You'll find that when you go onto the Grande Île, there'll be security checks, so you may have to wait a couple of minutes. Okay, so a quick overview of the 8 markets. The main Christkindelsmärik on Place Kléber is the top right in blue. So that's a market that's been there since 1870. Then when we move across, you'll see in orange is the Carré d'Or market on the Place Kléber. So this is all about pastry chefs, chocolate makers, bakers, and cheese producers. And in red, you can see the Christmas tree. So Place Kléber is where the main Christmas tree is. And here the chalets are run by non-profits, selling a variety of products to raise funds for charity. Then if we move down on the right, you can see the cathedral. So this is around the cathedral market, and there are chalets on the 2 squares by the cathedral, as well as on several side streets off the cathedral. And then if we go down to the river, you can see in dark blue, Le Quai des Délices, or the Dock of Delights. And here the focus is on gourmet food and drink. And then follow the river along left at the bottom, and you can see in green is La Petite Fosse, which is one of the prettiest parts of Strasbourg. It's filled with waterways and traditional half-timbered houses. And here the focus of the market is home decorations and festive accessories. Just along from there, in pink, you can see the small producers of Alsace market, which is all about artisanal food and drink made exclusively in Alsace. And then finally, just up from there, in purple, is the Marché Off, which is an alternative market. So here, the chalets are no longer made out of wood, but they're made out of shipping containers. And the focus here is environmentally friendly and sustainable products. Okay, let's take a look at each market in detail. So first of all, we'll start with the traditional Christkindelsmärik, which is on Place Kléber, where the arrow is. So on Place Kléber, as we said before, the Christkindelsmärik is Alsatian dialect, the market of the Christ child, and it's the historic Christmas market that's been held here since 1870. You'll find there are 2 alleys of chalets. In fact, there used to be 3, but because there are more and more people every year, they reduced it to 2. And these chalets are selling decorations, arts and crafts, and all sorts of edible treats. And most of the food and drink on the Place Kléber is at the opera side of the square. So in terms of sweets, you'll find candy, gingerbread in all its forms, gingerbread in the shape of hearts, trees, or in the shape of storks, which is the iconic bird of Alsace. You'll find typical Alsatian biscuits, Kugelhopf, which is a tall dome-shaped brioche with a hollow in the middle, and it's packed with almonds and raisins, great at breakfast. You also find waffles, pancakes. Then savoury food. There's a big choice of savoury food as well, also very Alsatian. So one of the typical things you'll find is the baguette flambée, which is essentially an open baguette sandwich with cheese, onion, cream, and lard or hams. They're pretty heady winter stuff. There's the Munsterflet, which is basically a tartiflette, but with Munster cheese rather than Fondation. So that's cream and potatoes and lardons and Munster cheese. You also find dishes of Spätzle, which is an eddy Alsatian pasta. And then, of course, there's all sorts of sausages, white sausages, frankfurters, which are known as knacks locally, and currywurst, a bit of German influence. So it's also a great place to grab a Christmas treat on Place Kléber. So the most traditional Christmas treat you can have is the Weinschorle, also known as Glühwein, the German, and that's a mulled red wine. But every year, they get more and more inventive with the drinks, and a few years ago, they started using hot white wine. So I was at the market just this week, and I saw they had Alsatian white wine with honey and spices, white wine with clementine, and then if you don't fancy alcohol, there's jus de pomme chaud, that's hot mulled apple juice with cinnamon. jus d'orange chaud, hot orange juice with honey. And then this year I saw there was hot grape juice with gingerbread spices, hot blueberry juice. I even saw one stall that had a list of 7 different varieties of wine. So if you get a drink, keep your cup. There's a €1 deposit you will claim back from any store on the market selling drinks. And this year, the town has introduced dispensers on the streets where you can insert your cup, and the €1 deposit becomes a donation that goes to charity. Okay, next on our Christmas market journey, a 5-minute walk from Place Kléber takes you along Rue d'un Messange to Place Kléber. So Place Kléber is the main square of Strasbourg. In the year, a book market is held here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And in summer, there's around 40 water fountains, but they're turned on one side of the square. And it's a great place for kids to cool down in summer, because it can get hot here in the summer. So at Christmas, it's a completely different atmosphere. Place Kléber is the site for the city's big tree, the Grand Sapin. And the tree is a real source of pride for the city and an icon of the Christmas market. So here are some statistics about this year's tree. It comes from a local state forest in Franco-German. It's a silver fir, measuring 31 meters or 101 feet high. It weighs 75 metric tons or just over 8 US tons. It has a branch span of 10 meters, 33 feet, and a trunk diameter of 70 centimeters or 28 inches. This year, the decorations on the tree revolve around 4 key symbols and values. There's the candle, the hope, the dove, the peace, the Alsatian house, the conviviality, and the Kelch heart, the love. The Kelch is a kind of checkered linen, but it's typical of Alsace. You often find it on tea towels or tablecloths. And all the decorations are sustainably made using recyclable materials. So every hour on the Place Kléber, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. when it's dark, there's a mini Soleil Lumière show. There is music, and then the lights on the tree light up and flash in time for music. The Christmas market here is called the Village du Partage, the sharing village, and that's because there are 110 non-profits that have chalets here. So one of my favorites is the Humaniste chalet, and it's here that you can buy soup created by Michelin-starred chefs working at restaurants in the region. I checked out this year's offer, and this year the soups include creamy pumpkin soup with parmesan, Jerusalem artichoke soup with Munster cheese and cumin, or forest mushroom velouté with Riesling and spiced croutons. I'd really recommend it. So just next door to Place Kléber, there is another market. In fact, just next door to Place Kléber, on the way from Place Kléber, or practically parked in front of it. And that's the Café d'Or market, which is on the Place du Temple Neuf. So this is all about pastry chefs, chocolate makers, bakers, cheese producers. And it's a beautiful spot right in front of the Temple Neuf church. And just on this square, which, as I said, is just off Place Kléber, there's one of the best pastry and cake shops in town. It's called Christkindelsmärik, and it has a tea room, so you can take a break from the cold with a cake and a hot drink. And one of their specialities is the touche au marron, which is chestnut buttercream piped out on a round base with whipped chantilly cream. Delicious. If you're near Christkindelsmärik, you should look out for spectacular Christmas decorations on the facade. This year, the decorations are birds bursting out of cages, and they're illuminated at night. In fact, if you look up as you're walking around the market, you'll find that many restaurants and shops decorate their facade in often very spectacular ways. Okay, next stop. So from Place Kléber, if you walk along the Rue des Grands Arcades, where it's Christmas illuminations, you'll arrive at Place Kléber and the cathedral. Again, this is only about a 5-minute walk, although if it's crowded, it can take a little longer. So as I said before, the cathedral was actually the site of the first Christmas time market back in the Middle Ages. It was called the Christkindelsmärik, for the Saint Nicolas market, and it was held around December the 6th. Today, rows of wooden chalets line both Place Kléber in front of the cathedral and Place du Château, which is on the southern side of the cathedral. On Place du Château, there used to be an ice rink, but this year I saw there was no ice rink, but there is a traditional merry-go-round or carousel. And the chalets here spill out along neighbouring streets, Rue des Arnards, Rue Gutenberg, and there's some incredible illuminations on these streets. So in and around the cathedral are several museums. There's the Historical Museum of Strasbourg, which is well worth a visit, very interactive museum. There's a Musée de l'Œuvre Notre-Dame, which is Middle Ages fine arts. And there's a Musée de Beaux-Arts, which is old masters paintings in an 18th century palace called the Palais Royal. And in fact, on the terrace of the Palais Royal, which is just behind Place du Château, is another market called the Quai des Délices, or the Dock of Delights. And this focuses on gourmet food and drink from Alsace. In particular, you'll find lots of fine wines from the region's vineyards. There's foie gras, there's traditional Christmas biscuits, and gingerbread from local bakers. And on this square, there's a sheeted tent that you can walk into, and you can see bakers making traditional Alsatian pastries. They even cook the pastries in ovens in the tent, which means there's an amazing smell and you'll definitely want to buy something. So in this tent, there are workshops for making traditional Alsatian Christmas biscuits, and there's also children's workshops to make Christmas decorations. If you look on the Strasbourg Christmas website, the details, then you can find out when those are happening. Okay, so just take a step away from the market. I want to have a look at the cathedral because it really is one of the absolute highlights of Strasbourg. So the Cathédrale Notre-Dame was built in pink sandstone, which is typical of the Vosges Mountains to the west of Strasbourg. So a lot of buildings in Alsace are in this same pink sandstone. The Königsberg Castle, which is one of the emblematic castles of the Vosges, is also in pink sandstone. So the cathedral's construction began in 1176 and it was only finished in the 15th century. So it took nearly 3 centuries to complete what is really considered a Gothic masterpiece. In fact, Victor Hugo, the famous French writer, called Strasbourg Cathedral a gigantic and delicate marvel. And it really does stick out of the city skyline. The spire tops out at 142 meters or 466 feet, and you can see it from miles away. I mean, sometimes we're hiking in the Vosges Mountains or the Black Forest Mountains in Germany, and it's one thing you can see from 30, 40 kilometers, so 30 miles away. It really sits out. So around the main entrance, there are some rich stone sculptures, but especially on the central portal, which you can see in the photo on the bottom left. So these are sculptures that bring to life the passion and resurrection of Christ. If you're feeling athletic, you can climb the 332 steps leading up to the cathedral's viewing platform, where you get a great panoramic view of the city from 66 meters or 270 feet above the ground. And on a good day, you can really see all over the city and as far as the Vosges Mountains to the west and the Black Forest in Germany east. So inside, there's some real highlights. The organ is unusual. It's a Gothic sculpted wood case, and it's unusually colourful, painted in red and blue with touches of gold. There's some beautiful 13th and 14th century stained glass windows. But the real highlights of the interior of the cathedral is the astronomical clock, which you can see in the centre top. So this is a clock that was built in the 16th century. It's big. It's really big. And it's a Renaissance masterpiece of not just clock making, but mathematics and automation. The current mechanism in the clock dates back to 1842, and it shows not just the time and date, but the positions of the moon and the planets. So every 50 minutes, little clockwork figures come out and enact the ages of life. You see a child, a teenager, an adult, and an old man all pass in front of the figure of death. And then every hour, death rings a bell. But the real show of the astronomical clock is at 12:30. So there's a longer show, at 12:30 p.m. every day. And here you can see the apostles passing before Christ, and they salute him, and then a mechanical rooster beats its wings and crows 3 times. So to see that show, you have to buy a ticket at the South Portal from 11:30 a.m. on Place Kléber. It's well worth it. Back to the Christmas market. So if you walk from the cathedral for 5 minutes via Place Kléber to La Petite France, you'll see that all the streets are illuminated with Christmas decorations. You can also take the Rue du Marocain down from the cathedral towards the water, towards Le Quai des Days, in fact, and then you can walk all along the water on a waterside promenade. In fact, it's well worth walking down Rue du Marocain, because there are several restaurants that really go out their way to decorate their facades with Christmas decorations. You'll see teddy bear, wreaths, and huge baubles on the facades. Okay, so La Petite France. La Petite France is one of the most picturesque areas of Strasbourg. It's filled with waterside promenades, cobbled streets, colourful half-timbered houses that lean over it into the river. And it's where the city's millers, tanners, and fishermen used to live. The Christmas market here is concentrated on 2 squares, the Place Saint-Thomas, which is overlooked by St. Thomas Church, and the Place Franco-German, which is the hub of Petite France with its riverside cafes and restaurants. So the focus of the market is home decorations and festive accessories. In fact, when I was there earlier in the week, I saw there was a huge queue outside one of the chalets, and I realized it was the Mithenthal chalet. So Mithenthal is a famous glass factory in the northern Vosges, and every year it brings out a new Christmas bauble as a limited edition. But every day only around 500 are released, so people queue up early to get this year's exclusive bauble. It's very beautiful and an original present if you're willing to queue. So, besides the chalets, La Petite France is about the beautiful surroundings and just soaking up the atmosphere. There are 5 arms of the river Ile that meet here, and the best way to discover the area is just to wander around the cobbled streets with poetic names like Rue du Bain aux Plantes or Petite Rue des Dentelles. So again, I want to do a little focus on La Petite France. So I've put some summer shots in different seasons to show La Petite France off at its most floral and picture postcard perfect. So the Place Benjamin Zix, as I said, which is here on the bottom right, is a great place to start. Some amazing views. And there's a really good cafe restaurant there called La Cour à Linge, which literally translated means the washing line. It has a shaded terrace that spills out onto the square in the summer. It's a great place to grab a beer, a cocktail, or a hot drink. And the cafe also serves simple, tasty dishes. And just nearby from the Place Benjamin Zix, there's a walkway that takes you across the water, and from there you can look down onto a loch. There are also some great views of the colourful riverside houses. But one of the tourists' favourite activities is to stand on the loch and watch the sightseeing boats from Bateau Varma stopping the loch, and then it fills up with water so that boats can then continue their journey along the river. So just off Benjamin Zix is the half-timbered Maison des Tanneurs, which is the house of the tanners, and it dates back to 1572, and it's now home to a restaurant serving traditional Alsatian dishes. The whole of Rue du Bain aux Plantes is still with half-timbered houses in what was once a tanner's district. And if you look up, you'll see that there are big sloping roofs on most of the buildings, and these were designed for dried animal skins on them. If you continue on Rue du Bain aux Plantes, just around the corner, you come to the Pont Tournant, the turning bridge. So this is a low pedestrian bridge that swivels open whenever a boat has to pass by it. So you may have to wait a couple of minutes to cross. Back to the Christmas market. So just past the Pont Tournant, you can arrive at 3 elongated islands that are joined together by the Rue du Moulin. On the first of these islands is another part of the Christmas market, and this is the small producers of Alsace market. So, in the square Louise Weiss, the small producers of Alsace market is all about local artisans offering 100% locally made Alsatian gourmet products. There's artisanal jams, hot apple juice, chocolate in all its forms, Riedler cookies, jams or jellies, biodynamic Alsace wines. Of course, you'll find many of these in other places of the market, but here is the exclusive focus. Now, Alsace is a gourmet region, and I think this is a good opportunity to take a look at some of the things you can expect to eat here. So, as I said, Alsace is a gourmet region. In fact, it takes great pride in the number of Michelin star restaurants it has. In 2025, it has 35 Michelin star restaurants. There's some other local food and drink you can expect to find on the markets. On the bottom right, you'll see biscuits there. Also, you'll find biscuits. You can see biscuits there, and these are Riedler biscuits. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes with different fillings and toppings. There's jam, chocolate, dried fruit. They're traditionally made in the weeks before Christmas. In fact, my 95-year-old neighbour usually starts baking Riedler in October, and she makes batches of different flavours every week, so she has a good selection to give to the family at Christmas. Another thing you'll find is menena. So on the top right, you can see these soft brioche being taken out of the oven. So they're soft brioche in the shape of a man, and they're traditionally given to children on the 6th of December, the day of St. Nicholas, who is a patron saint of children. You'll find them sold all over Strasbourg at this time of the year in bakeries, often with raisins or chocolates for eyes. Beer is another big Alsatian tradition. In fact, Alsace is a hub for French beer. Some of the biggest beers are brewed here, including 1664, Kronenberg, and Liqueur. There are also lots of microbreweries producing IPAs, dark beers, Christmas beers. Then, of course, there's wine. Alsace is a big producer of fruity white wines. There's dry wines like Silvaner and Riesling, and sweet ones like Gewürztraminer and Muscat. There's Schnapps. So Schnapps is the eau de vie, or a spirit distilled from fruit. It's usually colourless. And typical flavours are cherry, pear, and Marc de Gewürztraminer, which is made from pressed grapes. You'll find everywhere on the market, you'll find pretzels, as they're known. They're often gratinés, but they're covered in cheese, sometimes cheese and lard on ham. Another real culinary speciality is the Flammekuchen. So in the bottom left, you can see a Flammekuchen, also known as a tarte flambée. It's a bit like a pizza, but the crust is very thin, and it's spread with cream, which is a mix of crème fraîche and fromage blanc, and then it's layered with onion, lard or ham, and often heaped with cheese. And it's usually served sliced into pieces on a wooden board, and you share it. Usually eat it with your hands, often fold out the pieces into your hands. And with some incredible Flammekuchen places in Strasbourg, like the Binstub just off Place Kléber is a really good one. Another dish you'll find on the market, and another very traditional Alsatian dish, is choucroute garnie. So this is sauerkraut cabbage, simmered with Riesling wine, and served with an assortment of local meats and sausages. Okay, so on the same site as the small producers of Alsace is the Advent Village. So this is a place where activities, events, and concerts are held for children and families in a covered and heated tent. So there are creative workshops, outdoor decorations and painting. You can make Christmas cards, you can make Advent wreaths, there's concerts, Christmas carols, stories, shows. You can even build your own miniature Christmas chalet from wooden blocks. When I was there, I saw them big enough for children to climb into them. And all the activities are free, open access, and require no registration. Just check the Strasbourg Christmas Market website, see when different activities are happening. So from the Advent Village, you can see the Place Kléber, or the covered bridges, and that's the photo you can see on the bottom right. So this is all that remains of the ramparts that once surrounded Strasbourg. And there are 3 watchtowers dating back to the 13th century. So the bridges are still called the covered bridges, even though they lost their roofs back in the 18th century. And just beyond the covered bridges There is the Barrage Vauban, or the Vauban Dam, and I think that's probably where this photo of the covered bridges was taken from. So the Vauban Dam crosses the river between the Petite France area and the city's modern art museum. It was created in the 17th century to flood the southern end of the city if it ever came under attack. And today the Vauban Dam is on 2 levels, and you can take the stairs up to a rooftop panoramic terrace and have some great views of the Place Kléber, La Petite France, and even of the cathedral. So, finally, another 5-minute walk. Everything it really is just 5 minutes away. Over the Place Kléber to the Place Kléber and the Marché Off. This is a market that focuses on sustainable and recycled products. It's the 10th year of the Marché Off, and it really is an alternative market. As I said, there are no wooden chalets here. They're all made out of shipping containers, as you can see on the photo. The stalls here focus on thrift shops, sustainable commerce, local organic farming, there's vintage furniture, upcycled clothing, unique local handicrafts, books, second-hand toys, organic and fair trade food. Even the mulled wine here is, of course, organic. And there's a big area here for sitting down and eating. There's also plenty of events at the Marché Off. There's workshops for children, such as face painting, organic snacks and puzzle solving. For adults, such as how to pair cheese with beer. And there's workshops for all the family, like a flamenco workshop for parents and children. There's also a good program of concerts from folk to rock and many other events like slam poetry, and there's even a drive-in film for cyclists. Also new this year, there's a parents and infants area equipped with a microwave, changing table, and a comfortable armchair to make the event even more accessible for young families. So, while you're in Strasbourg, I would really recommend taking a boat trip on the river. So, Strasbourg is full of waterways. There's the river Inn, but there's also the river Aar, and there's several canals, and they all link up together. So just a few minutes walk from the cathedral, the Batorama company offers a number of different boat tours. The 45-minute tour is a round trip into La Petite France, and it includes going in the lock, so driving up the lock and carrying on the journey. And then it goes on to the Vauban Dam and into the Neustadt, which is an area we've not yet mentioned, but the Neustadt is filled with imperial buildings built by the Germans before World War I. And then it heads back towards the cathedral for the end of the boat trip. Another longer version is the 1 hour 10 boat trip, and this does the same round trip as the 45-minute one, but it also heads northeast along the River Inn with Strasbourg's European institutions, which include the European Parliament and the Court of Human Rights. You can even get off at the European Parliament and get another boat back later. So what about European culture? Strasbourg is home to a number of European institutions. It was chosen to be the home of several European headquarters after World War II as a symbol of Franco-German reconciliation, and also because of the city's position at the crossroads of Europe. The 3 most important European institutions are the Council of Europe, the European Parliament, and the European Court of Human Rights. So the Council of Europe, which you can see in the middle bottom photo, has been based in Strasbourg since it was founded in 1949. But it's now housed in the Palais de l'Europe, which you see on the photo, which was built in 1977 and designed by French architect Henri Bernard. The Council of Europe represents all 46 nation-states of Europe, and you can see the flags outside the building. Inside is the largest hemicycle in Europe, and 1,350 it. So you can visit the Council of Europe during the week, but you need to book ahead. It's a 75-minute guided tour. The European Parliament, which you can see on the 2 left photos, was opened in 1999, and as you can see from the river photo, it's an impressive glass, metal, and wood building. Its elliptical shape is particularly impressive when it's viewed from a river. When there are no plenary sessions, you can visit on a self-guided tour, And during plenary sessions, you can visit the hemicycle and you can even watch parliamentary debate. It's free, but you do need to book ahead. Finally, the European Court of Human Rights, which is the two right-hand photos, was designed by Sir Richard Woodruff, who is the architect who co-designed the Pompidou Centre in Paris. And the Court of Human Rights was inaugurated in 1995 with two metal cylinders you can see in the bottom right photo at the entrance symbolize the scales of justice. And when the building is viewed from the back, as in the top right-hand photo, it resembles a boat moored on the river. Other Strasbourg sites. So, the Orangery, which you can see in the two left-hand photos, is the biggest park in Strasbourg, and it's right by the Council of Europe. It has a boating lake, but it's also home to storks, which is an emblematic bird in Alsace. You can see them making their nests in trees in the Orangery, and also making a nest on top of the Avenue Josephine, which is a building you can see in the top left. And most of all, you can hear them because storks make a loud clicking noise. They're migratory birds, and they generally leave Alsace for warmer climates in winter, but many were bred in the Orangery as part of a program that started in the 1970s, because at the time the local stork population was at an all-time low. So some of those that were bred in the park have lost their migratory instinct, and you may still see them in the winter. But in the summer, storks are all over Alsace. They make their nests on medieval towers, in trees. You can see them flying in the sky all the time. So in the Orangery, there's also great gastronomic restaurants called the Burley's Inn, which I would heartily recommend. Another highlight of Strasbourg is the Jardin de Rive, which is a park on both sides of the Rhine in France and Germany. You can see that in the top right photo, and it's connected by a footbridge, which is in the photo. So this park was opened in 2004 to celebrate Franco-German relations, and it's a great place to take a stroll in two different countries. And finally, there's a Neustadt, which I mentioned briefly before, the two bottom right-hand photos. And so this is the German-built extension to the city centre in the late 19th century. The area is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as it's one of the last examples of German architecture from the period, because so much of it was destroyed in Germany during the Second World War. But the centerpiece of the Neustadt is Place de la République, which has neo-Gothic buildings. So, as I said, it was when Strasbourg was part of the German Empire, and the Palais de Reims was originally the residence of the Emperor. There's also the domed National Library, which is the second largest library in France. And from Place de la République, you walk along Avenue de la Liberté, you'll see the imposing former post office, and you'll go all the way to the Neo-Renaissance University, which was actually modelled on a university in Berlin. And outside, there's a statue of Goethe, who once studied here. There's so many other German-era buildings in the Neustadt that are well worth visiting, including the municipal baths, and there's a number of impressive Art Nouveau buildings as well. Okay. How to get to Strasbourg? So if you're in Paris, it's very easy. There's TGV that takes just 1 hour 45 minutes, 300 miles or 500 kilometers, and that goes from the Gare de l'Est. There's also a small airfield in Strasbourg at Entzheim, which is just a 20-minute drive from Strasbourg Centre. There aren't that many flights, but I've seen that in December there are many, many more. For example, normally there's a flight to London just twice a week, but at the moment it's every day during the Christmas market. Getting around. The best way to get around the centre is certainly to walk, because it really is quite small and very walkable. As I said just now, the Batteron of boat trips are well worth going on. There's also an extensive tram and bus network in Strasbourg, and in fact you can get a 3-day ticket for just €10.20, either on an app or a physical card. If you are driving, I recommend using the park and ride system. So you can park your car in one of the car parks and get the tram in, and you'll get a very discounted price. While you're in the region, this is just to give you a taster of Alsace beyond Strasbourg. But to the west of Strasbourg, around 40 minutes, is the Vosges Mountains. And the Vosges, I love the Vosges. I spent a lot of time there. It's filled with ancient castle ruins, hiking trails, lakes. And then there's the 170-kilometer or 105-mile Bival. These are vineyards above picture postcard villages such as Christkindelsmärik, Kaisersberg, Dambach-la-Ville, and Colmar, which is a particularly beautiful Alsatian town. And really, you can spend days just tasting wine, eating in gourmet restaurants, and just pottering around these absolutely exquisite villages. And then finally, and I realised this is France today, and this is not France, but to the east of Strasbourg is the famous German Black Forest. And it's again about 40 minutes away. And there are some great hikes, vineyards, picturesque villages, waterfall walks, and of course, a chance to taste the genuine, iconic Black Forest ghetto. Okay, so that's it from me. If you want to find out more about Strasbourg, you can head to visitstrasbourg.fr, and you could also follow me on Instagram at rich.travelalsace.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rich. I don't know if you can see all the hearts and applause and all the love coming in.
I'm still in.
We have lots of questions, so I hope we have time to get to them. A practical question to start. Mara would like to know, are there days of the week or weeks during the season that are less crowded than other times? Thank you.
Is that for the Christmas market?
I believe so, yes.
The Christmas market is always very busy on the weekends. It's almost difficult to move around sometimes at the weekend, so I definitely recommend, if you have a choice, going during the week. But honestly, I was there, when was it? It was Tuesday, and it was fine. I mean, there were obviously people milling around, but it was still a nice atmosphere. But it was, I'd definitely say go during the week, and go during the day to see Strasbourg a bit, but then go when it's dark as well, because the illuminations really are very beautiful.
Right. Around what time is it getting dark?
It gets dark around 4-ish.
Yes, so plenty of time. And another practical question from Joanne. Rich, is there an entry fee to the Christmas market? And if so, how much is it, please?
No, it's free. It's completely free. You can wander around as much as you like. There's no entry fee at all.
Fantastic. And we have so many questions. I'll do my best. Janine was asking, bonjour, I hope the speaker will talk about the crèche manger scene in the cathedral. Thank you. Do you know if they still have a nativity scene at the cathedral?
They do, I think. To be honest, I haven't been in this year, but they certainly have in the past. I will go next week, and I will put something on Instagram if I find it.
Okay, Janine, watch Rich's Instagram. And Lara would like to know, where can she buy Santon?
Where could she buy? Sorry, what?
Santon. You know the figurines in Provence for Christmas, around the nativity scene, and it's a typical.
I mean, honestly, they're all over the Christmas market at the moment. But they tend to have an Alsatian kind of tilt decoration like that. I mean, but a lot of Alsatian houses. Is that what you mean? That kind of thing?
Well, the Santon that I know, please correct me or is in Provence. You have little figurines that represent all the different professions and occupations, and some are funny, some are more artistic, and I know that you can definitely find them in Provence, but I wonder if the shops in Strasbourg that are, as you mentioned, there are year-round Christmas shops. Those may have them as well.
There are 2 year-round Christmas shops. I'm not familiar with Santon, but there are 2 year-round Christmas shops. One called Noël en Alsace, and I can't remember what the other one's called. But yeah, but there, if it's a Christmas decoration, that would be the place to head, definitely, if you're in Strasbourg. But during Christmas market, there's so much choice of different figurines and decorations and miniatures like that. So
yes, so you won't be disappointed with the shopping options. No. And Another question from Joanne is, I can see bands on the legs of the storks. Are they protected birds in Strasbourg?
So, as I said, a lot of them were in this repopulation program. So a lot of them have been bred. There were several centres over Alsatian, actually. Like I said, there was one in your Aldry, but there's also in Kléber, which is a village in the Borough. There was a huge repopulation program there as well. In fact, you can visit it today. So yeah, a lot of them are tagged. I think that was part of the process of repopulating Alsace with storks, because I mean my father-in-law, who's lived here all his life, he still looks up with amazement at storks because he remembers a time when there were virtually no storks at all.
Oh, that's
But now I love. Come on, now my kids are sort of quite blasé about it.
Yeah, they're quite impressive, I think. And of course, all the folklore around them. They bring people. So, Ryan would like to know, how many days would you suggest to stay in central Strasbourg for somebody who likes to fully experience everything in winter?
In winter, I would say 3 to 5 days, probably. 3 to 5 days. Then you can take your time, enjoy the market, but you can also explore other aspects of Strasbourg. Like I said, maybe the European institutions, or go to a park, or even take a side trip into Germany. There are so many things to do. Like, I mean, you could easily spend 2 weeks in the region visiting different parts of Alsace and the Route du Vin, and there's so much to do. And of course, all the villages along the Route du Vin have their own Christmas markets. Often they don't go on the whole month like Strasbourg, but often they're concentrated on the weekend. So the possibilities are endless. But just Strasbourg, I'd say 3 to 5 days would be a good time if you want to take your time.
And Melanie would like to know, what's the best time to come to Strasbourg if you don't come at Christmas?
If you don't come at Christmas, the summer is a great time. I mean, probably June and September. If you want to avoid the crowd, then it can get very hot in the summer. We, like a lot of France these days, but we have a continental climate and we have heat waves. But I would say June and September would be a great time to come. But the summer is a great time to come. There are a lot of events going on. With a Sol et Lumière on the cathedral during the summer. A lot of events are organised. So I'd recommend that.
And Laura asks, are pets allowed in the Christmas markets?
I've certainly seen dogs, so I assume so. I don't have an animal myself, but I assume so because I had seen dogs there.
Well behaved, because all those smells must be irresistible.
That's true.
So I think we managed to get through all the questions. There's one more question from Amber. Oh, Donald has a comment. Donald said he spent several weeks in, I don't know how to pronounce this, Christkindelsmärik?
Kléber, yeah.
And we visited a lovely store park nearby.
Yes, that's probably the one in Kléber, I would say.
Yeah, amazing. Oh,
I think it's so beautiful. It looks like something out of Disney, because I think Disney used Rick there as its model.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. It really is. It's
that's right. Yes, and I saw that, but because Disney also was inspired. Some of the visuals in the films, I think Beauty and the Beast and all.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Exactly. It looks like an Alsatian village. It really does.
Yes, amazing. So Amber has a question, but I can answer this one. Can we get a copy link of this program? Yes, of course. Amber, you will receive a link to watch the recording back. And you will also have in the same email, you will have a link to follow Rich's work and to know more about Strasbourg on the Strasbourg website. And Joanne, thank you very much, says, Rich and Sylvia, this was a fantastic tour. Thank you. It's all Rich. I didn't want to put. And Amber says, wonderful. Thank you very much. And thanks, Rich. This was absolutely fantastic. I know it's very difficult to summarize all this in a short time, but I think you can see all the hearts coming up. So with that, just let me invite you. Thank you again to all of you for your support throughout the year and for your participation, your lovely comments on all our previous events and this one. And keep an eye out for our next event. All our France Today members can watch these events for free. If you'd like to join, you can see in the resources button under your screen a link to sign up for membership for yourself or gift. It's a season. Gift a membership to a Francophile in your life. And so we'll on that resources button, you also see a link to get the France calendar. You help support these events. And thank you very much. I can see all the comments coming in. Marie says magnifique. And so I will invite you for our next event. Keep an eye out for January 29th, a conversation with award-winning author Carol Rose Spalding, hosted by literature professor Janet Hellstrand. Spalding's gripping novel takes us from rural France during the lead-up to World War II and the Nazi occupation, all the way to Paris in 2005, with even some interesting insights for today. So it's a lovely, cozy hour in conversation with an author. And until then, thank you again, Rich, and from all of us at France Today, we wish you happy holidays.